500 is soon upon us, and that means plotting a long route, possibly even your longest yet. And while there are many route plotting how-tos out there, none really factor in the suffering that you will endure because of the weather, the elevation, and just the way your own brain works. I'm here to help you take all of this into consideration so that you can plot a route that will help minimize your suffering. Personally, I rode 142 kilometers, that's 88 miles, every single day for an entire year back in 2016. So, if I may say so myself, I'm not a bad route planner. So if you want a definitive guide to long ride route plotting, stay tuned. It's too cold without that. Ho, 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 a Merry Christmas. Okay, I'm going to be having some mulled wine. Got my little camping stove here, look. Hopefully I'm not going to set anything on fire. It's mulled white wine, special mum recipe. Oh yes, I've got white wine so that I won't have any continuity errors, you know, with the red wine around my face and stuff. Think of everything. Got a flame. Let that heat up a bit, shall we? It's probably got glitter in it. Better take the lid off. Don't want it boiling, that'll ruin it. And it'll burn all the alcohol away. I need to be drunk for this, right? I don't really. Methylated spirit. The spirit of Christmas. Oh yeah, that's looking good. Oh my gosh, still on fire. Whoa! Whoa! Oh no, well this is not going very well. Oh, there we go. Should we begin this episode? Let's do that. And before I start, I want you to know that this is not a how-to on using a particular app or website to plot your route. There are plenty of other videos for that. This is about the other stuff. Stay with me while I explain all this. Okay, let's talk ideals. So let's say that you're in a parallel universe and you've got a completely flat route, there's no wind, and the temperature is consistent at your perfect riding temperature. You've eaten well, and you've hydrated consistently. You're on a traffic-free, smooth road. Yes, this is getting a little bit unrealistic, I know. And your bike is in perfect condition. Go you! Unfortunately, you're still likely to suffer purely from the distance itself. So psychologically speaking, at what stage of the ride will your mind be at its weakest? Surely it would be as simple as the further you ride, the more you suffer, right? Well, nothing is ever simple, is it? So when will your body start to fatigue? And when will your active mind get the better of you? Well, your body will probably get progressively more fatigued as the ride goes on, although there might be a boost if you're stopping for a bit of a longer break for lunch or whatever. Your suffering can also be based on how your body is feeling, but there are seemingly unlikely factors too, like simply the mileage and how close you are to home or a planned stop. So in my earlier example, with no external factors messing with your ride, think about how you would suffer. For me, I tend to suffer just before the halfway point and then at about 80% of the ride. Obviously, this is for a long ride. I'll start well, and then it gets harder and harder as my body fatigues and other discomforts creep in. This could be anything from saddle issues to general aches and pains. If I've got a cafe stop around the halfway point, then I tend to get a bit rejuvenated before the suffering starts again. Peak suffering is at about 80% in, and then it feels like I'm on the home straight. Of course, everyone is different, and the psychology around distance affects different people differently, and it's important to figure out when you're feeling the weakest during a ride. This does come with experience, but try to remember how you felt at different stages of a ride so that you have an idea. So what is it about the mileage that affects me? Well, it's kind of unfulfilled hope or something. So suffering increases as I get close to the halfway point, and it's frustration that I'm not there yet. But once I've broken the back of the ride, then I'm just wanting it to be over. Again, bearing in mind that this is a long ride of the type 2 fun variety, so suffering is part of the fun. I did a bit of research, and although there's quite a significant difference in what parts of the ride people suffer, nearly everyone said that 75 to 80% of the ride was the worst part. Of course, it would be interesting to know at what parts of the ride you suffer. Is there a pattern? Do you suffer from the 80% that most of us do? Or perhaps you suffer as soon as you get on the bike, knowing how much time there is left to go or how much distance there is left to go. Whatever your pains are, let me know in the comments below. It'd be awesome. Okay, so now for the other stuff. Are they? I hear you scream. Well, let's count down the top 6 external factors that can mess up your ride. Mechanical issues can easily put an end to a ride or make it hell on earth, but ensuring that your bike is in top condition prior to a long ride can prevent this. So bike issues is here at number 6. In at number 5, fueling and hydration. Getting this wrong on a long ride surely has the greatest impact, but like 6, it's easily managed and can be prevented. Note though that during your darkest times you may be in no mood to eat or drink, making things 10 times worse. Now, if you've ever done the bike leg of the Outlaw Triathlon, you'll know what it feels like to hit the road from hell at 90% through your ride. Struggling over cobbles when your backside and your legs are already screaming is not exactly fun, and as it can seemingly appear out of nowhere, I'm putting road surface conditions in at number 4. Okay, you're nearly home, you're suffering, your mind is weak, and suddenly a van passes close to you and the passenger shouts, "Get on the cycle path!" out of the window. Some people don't let this bother them, or doesn't let it bother them until they're nearly at breaking point. That's why traffic is number 3. That's so close, that's so close, it's close. Hills are up 2 places. At number 2, imagine this. Again, you're not far from home, your legs are jelly, your mind is mush, and suddenly a hill the size of Everest appears in front of you. Unless you live in Lukla, the hill is unlikely to be Everest, but any incline can break you if you're in the wrong state of mind. Last but not least, headwinds, freezing temperatures, black ice, rain, sleet, snow, it can all play havoc with your ride. Predictably, the weather is at number 1. Well done to the weather on making it to number 1. Woo, Christmas number 1. All these should factor into your route planning. Know that distance itself affects your level of suffering and plan your route accordingly. Here are my top tips for long ride route planning. If it's windy, try to make sure you're not battling the wind during the part of the ride where you're psychologically at your weakest. Either ride into the wind during the first part of the ride, unless it's much stronger then, or choose a crosswind. Strong crosswinds though can be worse than a strong headwind in some cases, especially if there's no shelter and lots of traffic. Lorries, whoosh, not good. Minimise the hills that you need to climb during those low moments, unless you just love hills, in which case it's whack a few more in there. Consider the time of day. If you're starting super early in winter, it might be the coldest part of the ride. In this case, a headwind could finish you off even in the early stages. Personally, I find that the right clothing offsets that, but it's just worth bearing in mind. If you're having a cafe or food stop, it's good to plan it just after halfway so that you've broken the back of the ride by the time you get to the cafe. The cafe stop also helps motivation to keep going to that point rather than turn back and give up, which I have done quite a few times. Use a route planning app like Komoot to see what kind of surfaces you'll be riding on. That way you can avoid those fields. If you're a premium member as well, you can also check the weather and the wind direction based on when you're starting, which can be both frightening and welcoming in equal parts. Those are my top 5 tips for route planning to minimize suffering. You're welcome. This is really good. I'm getting a bit tipsy. If you like this video, I would very much appreciate it if you could give me a bit of a Christmas present and hit the like button, and the subscribe button. And also hit that little bell next to the subscribe button, because that way you get all the notifications of future episodes when they come out. If you're watching this in the summer, it'll be really weird. I'm not bothered.